was a dark and stormy evening when Sarah and her younger brother Ethan arrived at the old house that had been in their family for generations. The house sat on a quiet hill at the edge of the town, surrounded by tall trees that seemed to whisper in the wind. As they stepped out of the car, the air was thick with the scent of rain and old wood. The house looked ancient, with peeling paint and windows that had not been cleaned in years. But for Sarah, it felt like home, a place filled with memories of her childhood. "Are you sure about this?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling slightly. He had always been more cautious than Sarah. "Of course," Sarah replied, smiling at her younger brother. "We're just here to clean up, get the old place ready for sale. It'll be fine." But deep down, Sarah felt something unusual. She couldn't quite explain it, but there was a strange energy in the air. As they walked up the creaky wooden steps to the front door, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. Once inside, the house felt cold. The floorboards groaned beneath their feet, and the air was heavy with dust. Ethan sneezed as they moved through the hallway, the echoes of their footsteps filling the silence. "I'll go check the attic," Sarah said, determined to explore every part of the house. "You start unpacking our stuff in the living room." Ethan looked hesitant but nodded. "Okay, but be careful, Sarah. You know the stories about this place." Sarah shrugged it off. "It's just an old house. Nothing's going to happen." She climbed the narrow staircase to the attic, each step creaking as if the house itself was trying to warn her. The attic door was tucked away at the end of a dark hallway, and as Sarah reached for the doorknob, she felt a chill run down her spine. The air was thick, as if something was waiting for her on the other side. With a deep breath, she opened the door. The attic was small, with low beams and a small dim light hanging from the ceiling. Old furniture, dusty boxes, and forgotten belongings were scattered around the room. The smell of mothballs and mildew filled the air. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But as Sarah stepped further into the room, she heard something. Soft whispers, like voices in the distance. At first she thought it was the wind or the house settling, but the whispers seemed too clear, too deliberate. Sarah froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She turned in every direction, trying to locate the source of the voices. But the room was empty. She could hear her own breathing, but the whispers didn't stop. "Hello?" she called out, her voice shaking. "Is anyone there?" The whispers grew louder, more distinct. Sarah's stomach tightened as she realized they were not just voices, they were words. "Get out." The words echoed in her mind, chilling her to the bone. She glanced around the attic, her eyes scanning the cluttered space for any sign of movement. But there was nothing, just dust, old boxes, and forgotten memories. Yet the whispers continued, now repeating the same phrase over and over. "Get out, get out, get out." Panic gripped Sarah's heart. She turned and ran toward the door, but as she reached for the handle, the door slammed shut with a loud bang. The room was suddenly plunged into darkness, and Sarah's breath quickened as she fumbled to open the door. She pulled on the handle with all her strength, but it wouldn't budge. The whispers grew louder, and Sarah could feel the air growing colder around her. She pressed her back against the door, her mind racing. What was happening? Who was there? Then, through the darkness, a shadow appeared in the far corner of the room. It was tall and thin, its form barely visible against the shadows. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as the shadow slowly moved toward her. She wanted to scream, but her voice was trapped in her throat. The shadow didn't speak, but Sarah could feel its presence closing in on her. Suddenly, the door flew open with a deafening creak, and Sarah stumbled out of the attic, gasping for air. Ethan stood at the bottom of the stairs, his eyes wide with worry. "Sarah, are you okay? What happened?" I don't know," Sarah stammered, her hands trembling. "There was something up there, something not right." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "I heard you scream. I thought you were joking at first." Sarah looked back at the attic door, her body still shaking. "I swear, Ethan, there's something in that attic. Something alive." For the rest of the evening, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the house was alive with secrets. The whispers had not stopped. They seemed to follow her, echoing in her mind long after she had left the attic. And each time she tried to sleep, she could hear them again. So faint at first, but growing louder until she could almost make out the words. "Get out." The next day, Sarah and Ethan decided to do some cleaning around the house, trying to ignore the strange occurrences. But every time Sarah went near the attic, she could feel the whispers calling to her. She tried to convince herself that it was all in her head, but the dread in her chest only grew. At night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant sounds of the house creaking. The whispers had returned, softer this time, but still present. They seemed to be coming from the attic again. Unable to bear it any longer, Sarah got up and grabbed a flashlight. She had to know what was causing the whispers. She crept up the stairs to the attic once again, her heart pounding in her chest. As she reached the top, she could hear the whispers clearer than ever before. "You should have left." With trembling hands, she pushed open the attic door. The room was just as she had left it, dark and still. The whispers faded, but Sarah's skin crawled as she stepped inside. She shone the flashlight around the room, her breath catching in her throat. And then she saw it. A small, dusty old mirror leaning against the far wall. It was the only thing that looked out of place in the attic. Sarah felt a pull towards it, an odd compulsion to get closer. As she stepped forward, the whispers became louder, almost deafening. "Don't look into the mirror." But it was too late. Sarah's eyes locked onto her reflection. But it wasn't her own face staring back at her. It was a pale, distorted version of herself, its eyes wide and empty, staring back with an intense, unnatural gaze. The reflection grinned, an eerie, malicious grin that sent a chill down Sarah's spine. Before she could react, the attic door slammed shut again, trapping her inside with the reflection. She could hear the whispers now, louder and more insistent, surrounding her. "You shouldn't have stayed." Suddenly, the reflection in the mirror reached out toward her, its hand pressing against the glass. Sarah stumbled backward, her heart racing in her chest. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. Just as the reflection's hand pressed against the glass, Sarah managed to break free, rushing toward the door and bursting into the hallway. She slammed the attic door shut behind her, gasping for breath. Ethan was waiting at the bottom of the stairs, his eyes full of concern. "Sarah, what's wrong? You look terrified." "I saw it," she whispered, still shaking. I saw the reflection. It wasn't me. It was something else. Something evil. The whispers faded, but Sarah knew that whatever had been haunting the attic was still there. It was watching, waiting for her to return. The next few days passed in a blur of cleaning, but the unease in Sarah never disappeared. Each time she walked by the attic, she felt a strange pull to go back up there. The whispers had stopped for now, but they lingered in her mind, like a song she couldn't shake. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sarah decided to explore further. She returned to the attic with Ethan by her side, trying to sound brave, even though fear gnawed at her insides. We need to figure out what's going on. Maybe there's an explanation. Ethan looked uneasy. I don't know, Sarah. Maybe we should just leave it alone. But Sarah had made up her mind. They pushed open the attic door, and once again the air grew cold, the whispers returning almost instantly. Get out. This time, Sarah wasn't afraid. She walked straight to the mirror, the object that seemed to hold the key to the house's dark past. As she stood in front of it, she felt a deep sadness overwhelm her. The reflection in the mirror didn't smile this time. Instead, it looked sorrowful, as if it had been waiting for Sarah to finally understand. Help us, the reflection whispered, its voice soft but desperate. Sarah's heart raced. She understood now. The mirror was not just a reflection, it was a window into the past, a place where trapped souls had been waiting for someone to help them. The whispers were not just warnings, they were pleas for help. With trembling hands, Sarah reached out and touched the glass.